Interjection here from NwDay. This is the second tips and tricks video in the tips and tricks series. This video is just going to put a technique called herding into context. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, then I did release an explanation video yesterday which covers it in less than 3 minutes. There's a link to that video on screen now. This video is a 1v1 between myself and a player called Meshel1986. Basically, I sped up an entire game, which only slows down to focus and highlight every aspect of herding in that game. I decided to show an entire 1v1 because it kind of puts the technique into context, shows how it's used in a game, and shows the effect it really does have on the game. At the end of the video, I show a clip out of a game where I really didn't herd very well at all. I didn't get those huntable animals anywhere in my town centre. I wasn't able to get any food. It really does demonstrate why you need to herd, since I lost so quickly for such a silly reason. Alright, here it is. I do apologise if my commentary is a little bit fast-paced at the very beginning of the video. Right from the start of the game, I'm going to select 3 settlers, put them in the town centre, and eject them out onto this closest bison in my town. That starting herd of bison in your town will never run away when shot at the very beginning of the game. However, this only applies at the start of the game. After that, the bison will run away like a regular herd when they are shot. Now I'm going to change the town centre's gather point behind this herd, so that when one of the settlers has finished collecting food from a food crate, it'll pop in the town centre and then can be ejected so that it walks towards the herd and can be used to bring that herd closer towards my town. Never kill more animals than you need to, because each animal decays at a rate of 1 food per second, and obviously you want to maximise the amount of food available to you. Right here, my war dog has just scouted my first herd that I intend to bring back towards my town centre. I'm going to change my town centre's gather point right behind the herd, so that when the settler is created, it'll walk over towards the herd, and I can use that settler to start bringing that herd closer towards my town centre. Right here, my war dog has just scouted the second herd that I intend to bring back towards my town centre. I'm going to take this settler here, get behind the bison, and shoot them towards my town. This settler here will be sent over towards the second bison herd so that I can begin to bring back 2 herds before 2 minutes of the game has even passed. I'm now back at the first bison herd again, bringing them closer with my 3rd shot. I'm now going to quickly switch back to the second herd again, shoot them, then switch back to bring the original starting bison even closer to my town centre. By bringing bison closer to your town centre, newly created settlers will have to walk less far before they begin to collect resources. I can only shoot back each herd once every 12 seconds, so it's important for me to do other activities like exploring, treasure collecting, and explorer killing during these intervals. I'm going to keep bringing that first herd closer and closer to my town centre. Now that I'm aging, I really do need to get these herds in quickly, so I switched to the 3rd herd, but that shot there is wasted as they didn't move. I know it's not long until the herd can be shot again though, so I quickly flick between these 2 herds to maximise efficiency. I'm killing my opponent's explorer here, which needs good concentration as I have to make sure they stay in hand combat, otherwise the explorer will be able to escape. Unfortunately though, because of this, it meant my concentration wasn't focused on my herding when really it should have been, especially since I'm expecting to be rushed, and obviously I really am going to need those herds on top of or even behind my town centre so that I can continue to collect food and not have to waste my villagers' lives when they're shot dead or waste time with villagers inside the town centre. My second herd here is still a long way off from my town centre, and I'm about halfway to the colonial age. There is no way I can get it back in time. The first herd here, however, isn't so far away and could be brought to where it needs to be within the time left before I age up. I switch some villagers from wood to food and eject them through the town centre to minimise walking. I do not send the ejected villagers behind the bison and do shoot the bison in what would be the wrong way. However, since the herd has already been shot, I have a period of 12 seconds from that shot in which the herd will not move, so during this period there is no need to waste gathering time walking behind the animal. Right here, I'm obviously going to continue to bring this herd in as much as I can, so that when my first herd in my base runs out, there'll be another relatively safe herd not too far away which I can collect from. In this game, I will be fast fortressing, so I chose to age up with an outpost and some coin. No matter where I put the tower, it will help me defend, but I chose to put it in between the first herd and the town centre so that when the bison are herded onto the tower, any working settlers can safely be garrisoned in the tower without having to walk anywhere. Unfortunately though, when a group of my settlers finishes collecting from a bison, they stand up and shoot a fresh one, causing the entire herd to run in the wrong direction. A close eye combined with shift clicking can be used to prevent this from happening. I switch back to that second herd and continue to shoot it back towards my town centre. Now that the game has moved into the colonial age, I can't expect to get that herd particularly far, as there will soon be enemy military units on the prowl which could shoot that settler dead. Now that over 12 seconds has passed, I need to get that first herd back onto my outpost so that I can collect food safely. So I take a settler behind the herd and obviously shoot it back. Some people think it's best to shoot the bison nearest to your town centre, as this will cause the entire herd to run a little bit further. However, this hasn't been proved. Unfortunately, another group of my settlers finishes collecting from a bison and so stands up to shoot a fresh one, again causing the entire herd to move away from my town. By using the shift key, I could have prevented this from happening, as I could queue up another task for my settlers to perform after they had collected all the food from the bison which was nearly out. By holding shift and right clicking on another dead bison, my settlers would have automatically started to collect from that selected dead bison once they had finished with the original one. If I had done that, then they would not have shot any bison, because they would already have another task queued up to perform. You can queue up any task in the game with any unit. I will release a separate video on hotkeys at a later date where I'll explain shift clicking more fully with some other examples of its use. Since I started aging up to the Fortress age, I've been able to shoot my first and second herd back towards my town centre twice each, since I've only just now seen military units from my opponent. If he had had units in my base faster, then I might not have been lucky enough to get those herds so close to my town, as my opponent would obviously want to shoot my settlers dead, just like how he killed that settler which was being used to bring in my second herd. Even though I was able to get one last shot in before the villager was killed, the herd did not run towards my base. This is called back herding and is completely normal and can sometimes happen. There is no way to tell whether a herd will back herd, and there is no way to stop it either. For all intents and purposes, it happens entirely randomly, and you'll just have to deal with it. Although I'm able to repel this rush here, my herding is far from perfect and those herds were nowhere near where they needed to be. Now that the action has properly begun, my concentration needs to be elsewhere on the map. However, this does not mean I stop herding. Whilst the action is happening, I quickly switch back to micro herd. This is where, whilst holding shift, I right click on the ground behind the bison with my already selected settler. Whilst continuing to hold shift, I right click on the bison. I have effectively queued up the tasks using shift so that the villager will herd for me whilst I am not looking. I now perform another micro herd on the other bison herd before switching back to the action. Again, to do this, select a settler, then whilst holding shift, right click on the ground behind the bison, then whilst continuing to hold shift, right click on the bison. Right here is a micro herd in real time before I switch back to the action. Although I am now fairly busy in the game, I am still switching back to micro herd every so often. Alright, that's it, and now here's a clip of me doing some absolute fail herding and losing because of it. Okay, so I'm doing the same strategy as last time against a player whose name is in the description. The moment I hit age 2, I sent 700 coin, and the 700 wood shipment shown in the bottom left is my second colonial shipment so far. As you can see, this player is much faster than the other. His forward block house is built on the periphery of my town centre's ability to block buildings being built near it. He's actually as close as he can possibly get. And due to my mega failure herding, the blockhouse is actually shooting the settler, bringing my herd in. In an attempt to save the game, I built my outpost on the herd nearest to my town, but his early attacks made little of it. Because I didn't herd very well, I wasn't able to get all the resources needed to put the fortress age in queue. Had I been able to reach the fortress age, then the outcome of the game could have been different, but I guess we'll never know. I tried to salvage the game by turning my failed FF into a makeshift Spanish colonial. And although I was able to repel his first attack, his superior economy enabled him to quickly bounce back and rip me to bits. Now that is the end of the commentary, but I will speed up the rest of the game so you can see what happened. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and do subscribe if you would like to see more from this channel. If you're interested in joining us or would like to get in contact, then visit our forums at nationofwarriors.co.uk/forum. Links are in the description.